Well, that's that. I think we're recording. And
You can edit this part out, right?
yeah, yeah. And let's see. There must be a. Yeah, there we go. All right.
Ready?
I think so.
All right. Good morning to our one student and the hardcore and those of you that are out there in video land. This is MIS 350. I hope you're all ready and charged up and ready to go. So I tend to start my lectures off with a quote just to get people's brain functioning, and usually when people come into class the first 5 or 10 minutes they're not completely engaged, so this is one way to kind of draw them in. And the quote I'd like to use today is from Robert Heinlein, science fiction author, also former U.S. Navy officer, invented the waterbed, prospector, gold speculator, or oil speculator, had a very interesting life. But anyway, he said, progress isn't made by early risers. It's made by lazy men trying to figure out easier ways to do something. Now, this does not denigrate the value of hard work, but what it is saying is you need to be reevaluating how you do things on a regular basis, because the world changes on us, okay? And that's part and parcel of MIS 350. We're talking about how the information system world continues to march along and continues to change, all right? So, my name is Mark Rounds. My office is Albertsons 326. My phone is 885-4199. The best way to get in touch with me, though, is by email. My email is mrounds@uidaho. My wife says I'm obsessive about checking my email, so I'll get you there. And office hours are by appointment. I'm usually here most days, so we can normally set something up. So academically, I've got a bachelor's in computer science from Montana State, and we're not going to discuss the date I got that in, but the world has changed dramatically since then. Information systems in those days was on mainframe computers. I wrote programs in Fortran with cards, and it's a whole nother world. This world reinvents itself on a regular basis. I have an MBA from the University of North Dakota, master's in computer science from Washington State. Don't judge me for being with Crosstown High there, but I got my PhD here at the University of Idaho. My work experience, I was 7 years an Air Force officer in B-52s primarily. I was electronic warfare officer. I clouded radars, and that's all we'll talk about that. But I also did in-flight simulator and classroom instruction. When I left the Air Force, I became an independent computer consultant for a couple of years. Various software projects, accounting systems, customized databases, business plans, that sort of thing. I used to do one of the video games, but I don't tell people what it was anymore, because if you're only into 8-bit games, you're the only person that will remember it. But that was Zaxxons, and no one knows, so don't worry about it. Taught computer applications for 6 years, taught database systems, X-based programming, computerized accounting, but I also kept my consulting racket going. And my biggest consulting company, our consulting client, Advanced Hardware Architectures, picked me up initially as a market analyst, and I became a sales manager and product line director and a bunch of other things. Little companies are fun. The reason they're fun is you never do the same job twice. At one point I had 3 active business cards, different jobs that I was doing at the same time. That whole band of brothers against the world, it was very exciting, very enlightening. And I traveled around the world, spec'd out new products, taught engineers how to use the products, sold the products. And that was going great guns until there was a downturn in the Asian economy, and we were selling 65% of our product to Japan, and so the company went from 102 people to 20 in an afternoon, which was exciting. Then I went and taught at WSU for a couple of years, while I was getting my master's. Taught C and C++ programming, database management, software engineering, and during that time I kept a consulting thing going, and a bunch of professors and other people that I knew, we formed a company called Drygeo Network Security. Was director of engineering for 2 years, managed the product development from zero to a functioning product, and then the company got bought out. And in both cases, being involved in starting the company, I took significant stock positions. Both of them got bought out, one for a little money, one for a lot. So really, I don't have to work here anymore. That's an advantage to the students. I'm here because I want to be here. I'm here because I think I can provide some insight into how the world works, and because it's fun, right? Life should be fun. Then I've been here for 17 years. This is the longest I've ever held one job in my life. Taught a bunch of different courses, and continue to. I mean, learning new things is the exciting part of what I do. And so I hope to continue to teach, to learn new things and move forward with what I'm doing. But this will be advantageous to the business MIS 350 because it's a survey course. It talks about how to deal with all the different aspects of information systems in businesses in many different aspects. And I've had some exposure to a lot of them. So I hope that will enliven our discussion. All right, now, my instructional philosophy, right? Where do I come from? I believe that everybody that's within the sound of my voice here is starting with an A, right? I have no preconceptions of your skills or abilities. One of the cool things about the university environment is at the beginning of each semester, you can start over. If you made some mistakes on a previous course and you've learned from it, great, right? I don't care what you did then, I only care what you're going to do. So I don't have any preconceptions about your skills, your abilities. In fact, you got to prove to me that you don't deserve an A. And that's not rocket science, right? If we had a fuller class, I can use we would normally have a conversation about this, but think about it, right? You got to show up, not hard, right? Do the homework, get the textbook, read the assignments, take the quizzes, do the work. Engage with your classmates, and these things are proven to improve your scores, your education. So those are important things. Now, you got to prove to me that you don't deserve it. Sadly, lots of folks do. But you know what? If everybody in this class said, I'm going to turn over a new leaf today, and I'm going to do all the things he just said, and you all do A work, I'd give you all A's. It's never happened, but I'd like to be the first. I'd like this to be the first class. Now, that being said, I will not be Captain Gullible, okay? Captain Gullible is a story about my time in the service. I was injured in an aircraft accident, so they moved me and made me commander of the headquarters squadron. And I was in the process of getting my MBA at that time, and I was studying Theory X and Theory Y kind of management. The guy that had the job before me had been a very aggressive individual, writing people up and giving them fines for very minor violations. And I vowed how I was going to do this differently. And I was definitely much more along the idea of cooperative management and trying to get my troops to do the right thing at the right time. And I thought I was doing pretty good. If the troops had problems, I'd get together and I'd talk with them, and we'd come up with a solution I thought was appropriate. And that worked for about 4 months. And then the first sergeant came along, and it doesn't matter what rank you are in the military. If the first sergeant says, I want to talk to you in my office, you know it's a bad day. And Chief Master Sergeant Fremmer said, Captain Rounds, can we talk in my office? Sure, Chief. Yeah, what do you want? And he said, you know what the troops are calling you? They're calling you Captain Gullible because you believe every windy story they tell you. So I will not be Captain Gullible anymore. That was a fierce lesson. On the other hand, I will listen. If there's something comes up and we got to deal with it, I want to hear about it. I want to hear about it sooner rather than later. It's easier to fix them early rather than at the end. So if you got a problem, I want to know, right? I'm not going to accept fabricated stories, and I want to operate from a position of trust and honesty. That's the way I'm going to treat you guys. I hope to be treated that way in return. And I believe that if your work is late, it isn't as good as work turned in on time, and will be marked down accordingly. This brings to mind the story about VHS tapes. Okay, most everybody in this that's hearing my voice here remembers VHS tapes. You may have even had a favorite when you were a kid. But there was a competing format for a number of years with the VHS tape. And that was the Sony Betamax. And it was literally better in every way. It was a smaller, more durable form factor. You could put more information on the tape itself, and the video quality was better. And so the question a lot of people asked was, why I mean, this was a big argument when I was younger. You know, why aren't you using Betamax? Well, VHS was first. Being first to market matters. Being on time matters. So get your stuff in on time. Now, having said that, something comes up, it's not working, you need to talk to me sooner rather than later. So what's this course? Let's talk a little bit about it. From the catalog, we get the course is focused on developing the student's detailed understanding of data processing applications for business, introduction to information systems, database concepts, analysis, design, implementation of computer-based information systems, and consideration of associated problems. All right? This course is focused on helping every business professional, I don't care what your major is, understand the impact of information systems and how to work with them effectively, right? I'm not going to turn you into a programmer. I want you to be a usable, valuable employee, right? I assume some basic stuff. I assume some college-level communication skills. You're going to have to write some things. We need to do that. There's going to be a significant time commitment. Summer classes are compressed by nature. A day's class in the summer is 3 hours long. That's typically the amount of class time we get in a week. Missing a day in the summer is like missing a week during the semester. Because of the nature of it, there's going to be homework pretty much every day, probably 3 days out of 4. And I'll make you the promise, you turn it in on Tuesday, you'll have it back Wednesday, right? Because we're going to have to turn this, make sure everyone's up to speed. So there's going to be a significant time commitment. And I expect a certain level of maturity and a desire to learn. We can go millions of miles with that, with those kind of basics. So the required text is Management Information Systems, Solving Business Problems with Information Technology by Jerry Post. And it's available, fittingly enough, because a lot of this course is discussing online and e-commerce initiatives at www.jerrypost.com. And you can get access to it electronically. You can get a printed copy, and the price is very reasonable. So, your first assignment, get the textbook. So how am I going to evaluate this course? Well, there's going to be quizzes. I have specific quizzes at the ends, at the end of most chapters to make sure everyone's reading it. On a regular occurrence, I may, if I'm not sure that you're understanding what we're doing, I may include a quiz just to kind of measure your competence and make sure I'm doing the right thing, right? There's going to be homework assignments. Specific, probably the most specific ones are going to be developing certain diagrams. The reason there's a variable distance in both of those is if you guys are getting it, I'm not going to give you a bunch of quizzes or a bunch of homework assignments just to do busy work. If I got a good feeling about everyone getting it, I will be reducing homework and reducing assignments. On the flip side, if you're not getting it, we're going to do it enough so that you understand it. I'm not going to just throw you out there on your own. There's going to be a midterm exam in 2 weeks, okay, and a final exam in 4, right? There's also going to be a mini project. The mini project is going to culminate in a business plan and a website for an e-commerce initiative. All right, and do not panic. We will talk about all the parts. We will have a tutorial on how to develop a web page, but you need to start thinking about that stuff sooner rather than later. So how am I going to evaluate this course? I'm going to do it on a 90, 80, 70, 60 scale. I may adjust it down if I find out I've messed up a question or something like that, but never up. What that means, what is that the course is not competitive. It's cooperative. Helping someone out in your class will not make the curve higher and your grade lower. So I want the class to be cooperative. I want people to help each other learn. I don't want you doing each other's work or anything like that, but I do want you to talk about these things. I want you to have an open dialogue so that we're all on the same sheet of music. And again, late work will be accepted only in case of documented illness, legal proceedings, or approved university activities with advance notice, except in cases of emergency, right? The summer schedule is so compressed. We got to stay up with these things. If you get behind in the summer, you'll be racing to catch up all summer long. So please don't get behind. If, however, something comes up, car accident,